We are live. I want to thank all our live viewers. This is the regular recording of the Polite Society podcast. I want to thank our advertisers. Of course, we have the Firearms Policy Coalition, Concealment Solutions, Crusader Weaponry, New Jersey Second Amendment Society, and the Firearms Safety Institute. We're going to be going with as we usually do when we have a guest in the regular show. We're going to go ahead and do the interview first with Paul Carlson, and then we'll get to recording the regular show. As always, if you have a question, you can hit the Q&A app and send the question directly into the Hangout, and that's the fastest way to get your question on air. For example, if you want to ask a question to Paul Carlson. If you comment on the YouTube page or on Google+, we do still get those. It takes just a second for us to get them, sometimes up to a minute or two, but we will, if we're still in that conversation, we'll talk about it as it comes up. So make sure that, we're good there. And make sure my recorder's up and ready to fly. Good news, guys, we only have 42 hours available on this SD card. So the show
that was close.
The show won't go longer than 42 hours.
Have to edit John and I down.
Okay, everybody ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, here we go. Hey, and welcome back to the interview portion of the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. Joining us today, we have Paul Carlson. Paul is, I'm guessing, the owner of the my goodness,
Safety Solutions Academy.
Let me start that again. I got too many things going on at once.
My paper so you can write it down.
I'm telling you. Here we go.
This is the Polite Society podcast, Paul.
Yes.
Powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition.
Amen. Hi, and welcome back to the interview portion of the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. Today we've got joining us Paul Carlson. Paul's the owner of and it just left my mind, Safety Solutions Academy.
Look at his shirt, dude.
I think I'll edit that out. I may leave it in. Paul, thanks for joining us, man. It's your first time on the show, right?
It is, yeah. Thanks so much for having me. How's everybody doing today?
Doing fine.
Awesome.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter to everyone.
So, Paul, how this came about, everybody, is Paul and I were kind of messaging back and forth on Facebook. He said, you could mention me. I said, well, it's a lot easier to mention you, Paul, in the Safety Solutions Academy if you actually come on the show. So that's how he came about coming on the show. To get started, I know people have heard you on Doc Wesson's show, but you do a lot more than just show up on a show. Tell a little bit about Safety Solutions Academy and what you do.
Yeah, sure, I'd be happy to. First of all, we do need to give a strong nod to, the godfather of gun podcasting, Doc Wesson, and the Gun Nation podcast, of course. Pay homage. Pleased to be a co-host there on the Gun Nation. Safety Solutions Academy actually has its own podcast, Safety Solutions Academy podcast. Pretty strong on YouTube and on social media as well. But probably the area that I'm most proud of is how it is that we've grown as a training company. We've got more than 45 days of instruction, courses coming up for 2015 still ahead. We'll be in, typically about a dozen to 15 states annually, and we're geared toward helping everyday people lead safer lives, plain and simple.
Very, very cool.
Where do you typically train?
Well, right now, and I shouldn't say right now, typically we are out of Cleveland, Ohio. We have an absolutely fabulous range in northeastern Ohio that allows us to do anything and everything we could ever need to do from a defensive shooting standpoint. And so we're at the Southington Law Enforcement and Military Training Center in Garrettsville, Ohio. It's a fabulous facility, and we are hosting more and more classes there every year because there's just really very few facilities like it nationwide. We're really very lucky to be in the Northeast Ohio area.
Typically, how many students would you have in a course?
Well, we work pretty hard to keep our instructor-student ratio down to reasonable levels. So we're looking, at max a dozen students per course for one instructor. When we have additional students, we bring in additional instructors to make sure that we maintain the safety and the instruction level that our students really require. They expect, they demand when they come to our Safety Solutions Academy courses.
Are we talking handgun training, rifle training, shotgun training, all the above?
Yeah, really all of the above. Our bread and butter, no doubt about it, is defensive handgun training. As much as I enjoy running rifles, as much as I enjoy running shotguns, the handgun is really the tool that we're most likely to have at our disposal when we need to defend our lives or other innocent life. And so it's the tool that I feel like we should spend the most time training. We do focus on home defense for rifles, home defense for shotguns, additionally, but really that concealed carry handgun is where it's at.
Okay. Is that what you're finding? I guess then would the demand meet the training? Do you have the most demand for handgun training, or do you see demand coming up for the rifle and the shotgun as well?
Yeah, we definitely see that demand in the other areas of training. Folks enjoy training with rifles. They enjoy training with shotguns. It's one of the things that we have to balance as a company, providing what it is that the customer wants compared to what it is that the customer really needs. We're not about entertainment, if you will. We're not about going out to the range and having a good time with guns. We can provide that service if someone really wants it. What we're about is actually increasing personal safety. And so the handgun is really the way to make that happen most. Most people don't carry around a rifle or a shotgun every day with them. If it's a home defense tool, might be another story. But that handgun seems to be that go-to weapon that people use the most for defending themselves and other innocent lives.
We're seeing self-defense find greater and greater acceptance all across the United States. If you had to contrast your students, would you say most of them come in for the CCW course and then go, whoa, that was a great beginning, but it's not enough? I'm expecting that we'll see, I mean, in some sense, you're like an insurance salesman. Your best customer is your last customer. Once they know where to go, I would think they just keep coming back because they realize they need more.
Yeah, that's really the truth. When folks come in for their concealed carry class, the most common comment that we get is, I really didn't understand that there was so much to this.
There's so much I didn't know.
Absolutely. Carrying a concealed handgun is not about that piece of paper that you get from the state that you live in that says you are now legally able to carry that handgun. It's about understanding how you can carry it in a way that's comfortable, that is secure, that's safe, yet still allows you to have access when you need it, and encourages you through that comfort, through that safety, that security, to carry that gun all the time. And so even just that chunk, we can't cover that in what Ohio requires in that 8-hour course. Right. That has to go on to other courses. Then you get into the idea of the legal aspects of carry. Huge component. We bring in Masada Ayub annually to teach a MAG 20 and a MAG 40 because that's so important. We just wrapped up with Caleb Causey last week teaching a tactical medical block, 2 days where folks came in from 6 different states and Canada to learn medical training. William April will be coming in at the end of the month of April, imagine that, to talk about criminal psychology, because if we don't understand who the criminal is, how they behave and why they behave that way, how can we even select the right training and prepare ourselves properly? So we've got to look at this from an all-encompassing nature, and that doesn't even start to touch on the unarmed defensive techniques, sharp weapons, intermediate weapons. I mean, the list goes on and on. So people are right to be a little bit overwhelmed when they get that concealed carry permit and then say, well, where do we go? Our hope is that they continue that training.
That's something that I think really sets law enforcement apart from the armed citizen. One, they have entirely different purposes. You and I hardly want to catch anybody. We just want to get somebody to stay the heck away from us if necessary. But law enforcement's trained with a many-step escalation of force. And when you say, hi, here's a concealed carry handgun, we try and discuss awareness, but that's a pretty big step from I might have a problem to lethal force.
Yeah, it's really a very small niche is what it is. You know, I'm actually rewriting Safety Solutions Academy's concealed carry curriculum right now. It's something that I do often. Things change a lot because we have to always be changing and improving what it is that's happening. But one of the things that I've been taking a look at as I've been rewriting is how it is that we can best address that specific niche, the fact that the handgun is a tool that solves a very narrow realm of problems, and help people at the same time understand that there are problems that are much more likely for them to encounter, and there are problems that come along with that use of the concealed carry handgun that may necessitate other skills as well. And if you don't understand that, if you just carry the gun and think that that's going to be the solution for everything, you're asking for legal problems. You're asking for not having the tools that you need, and so that could lead to your physical disability through injury, through violence. You're looking at possibly the financial repercussions of making an error in a self-defense situation. Those are things I don't want my students to experience.
So if I could, then you're talking. What I've heard mostly is about classes in the Ohio area, but you said you go outside the area. Do you have off the top of your head, or do you have in front of you where are you going to be in the near future?
Yeah, absolutely. We're, the first one that comes off my mind, we'll be headed to Wichita, Kansas. We'll be out there in October. We're working on setting up some classes right now in Florida. I'm down in Florida right now traveling. Spent some time with Kevin Crichton, who's over at Misfires and Light Strikes. That's his blog. More importantly, he's the marketing director for a place called the Alamo by Lotus Gunworks, a beautiful high-end training facility. So we're working on some things down there in Florida. What I've been doing with Safety Solutions Academy over the past year is trying to bring things back home and spend more time teaching the Cleveland area. And we've had tremendous success having folks travel in. As I mentioned, Caleb Causey brought in folks from 6 states and the U.S. and Canada. So it's a beautiful facility. We've got everything that we need here, and it's pretty easy to get to. So we're working to stay at home more and more.
Well, I don't want to take you away from your family, but I would love for you and Grant Cunningham to come to North Carolina, the upstate of South Carolina, and put on a class. We might even get Doc Wesson involved.
That would be outstanding. And in fact, Grant and I talked about it this past Friday. We've got a standing Friday call that we have together, and we're making plans to see what we can do to make that happen. Biggest challenge we've got is finding that location that's the right place. And upstate South Carolina, I'm fairly familiar with the Greenville area, Spartanburg. I know that there's a range there, but we've got a Sunday shooting issue there. So we need some place where we can train Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday is what we're looking for. So if you folks have suggestions, let us know.
Very cool. I'm running out of I'm going to have to edit this. Anybody else have anything to bring up? Well, let me ask this then.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned you're going to be doing some stuff in Wichita. I'm guessing that's going to be with
Daniel Shaw, Thunderbird Tactical.
Shaw, yeah.
Yep, Gunfighter Cast. Absolutely. Yeah, Daniel's coming to Cleveland in June, and we'll be headed out to Wichita, and we'll kind of to flip-flop things when we head out to Wichita, which is one of my favorite places to go and train. We're actually launching a new product, the Plan B for the Smith & Wesson Shield that came out of the last class that I taught in Wichita, and we're getting so close to having that new base plate and magazine sleeve ready to go. We're in the finishing process, and the first batch is about to ship, so we're pretty excited about that.
Talk a little bit about that Plan B. I've heard about that before.
Yeah.
We haven't discussed it on the show yet. What is that?
Yeah, it's a good question. The Smith & Wesson Shield is an outstanding concealed carry firearm. Its slim nature, yet its reasonable size make it easy to conceal and at the same time easy to shoot. And since it's a 9mm or a .40 caliber, we're talking about a reasonable defensive caliber that people might expect from concealed carry handgun. It comes with a flush-fitting 7-round magazine and an 8-round magazine that has a slight 1-round extension on it. It's just a longer magazine. And what they've done to make the extension look good is there's a plastic sleeve that covers the magazine base between the base pad and the grip of the gun. So the challenge that comes in there is if that's 8-round magazine, typically carried as the spare, is carried in a pocket or even in a magazine pouch, that magazine sleeve can slide. And depending on where it's at when you try and reload, that can be an issue. In training, it can also be an issue. The way that that's shaped, the back of that magazine sleeve matches the grip. Your hand has a tendency to trap that magazine inside the gun when the magazine is empty. So when you're training and you need to make a reload in a training class, that 8-round magazine needs to come out. Well, it just doesn't want to because your hand is holding it in place. And the other thing is because the base pad is flush, there's really not much of a gripping surface if you have to deal with a malfunction and strip that magazine out of the gun. So we took those 3 problems to try and deal with it. Go ahead.
There's not much left to grab.
No, there really isn't. It's fairly smooth. And Smith & Wesson put in a couple of divots or contours on the base pad, but they're really kind of in the wrong direction. You know, the smooth part is facing up, which is the direction you would grab from. If I was pulling this way, you know, I'd have the smooth section is what I'd be pulling against.
Mm-hmm.
So we looked at that, and I said, boy, there needs to be a better answer. And the answer I always gave my students was just get rid of the darn sleeve. Just take it off. We're not here to have pretty guns. I don't care if the magazine shows. Just get rid of it so you can reload the gun, you can drop the magazine, and you can strip it out. Well, there's a fellow named Mark Goldstein that was in my class in Wichita, Kansas, and Mark is a go-getter. When he trains hard. As he reloaded his gun throughout the day, it started to slow down a little bit. The slide wasn't cycling quite right, and kind of had a puzzled look and thought, well, maybe we'll clean it. Well, eventually the gun completely shut down, and Mark showed it to me. He had bent the ejector straight up into the ejection port. And as an instructor, I thought to myself,
oh, gotcha.
I'm an idiot, right? I mean, I started shooting 1911, so I know all about single stack magazines and over insertion, but I didn't put it into the context of the shield. Well, of course, as the magazine goes up and in, it has the potential to impact the ejector, and we literally shut his gun down. So now we took a problem that we had, and we made it even worse by getting rid of the sleeve. And that's when I knew I had to get something designed. So basically, there's a simple tongue and groove design that we have a patent pending on. And if you imagine just the back of the magazine sleeve having a gap in it, and as the base pad comes in, it just comes into this tongue and groove and mates. Let me do it in front of the speaker, or in front of the picture instead of the microphone. It just mates so that sleeve can't slide up and down. It locks it in place where it needs to be. It's very simple, and we've gone through a heck of a lot of trouble to make that happen, and we're just about at that point. We expect in the next 3 weeks to be shipping the first 150, which sold back in January at SHOT Show. And unfortunately, Mark was killed. He's a pilot. He died in a plane crash last October. And so this version is the Mark I. It's got some markings on it that are kind of special and pertinent to Mark, as he's the inspiration behind it. But it's been an amazing project. I'm really looking forward to that.
Very, very cool. Well, we are coming up on break here. If I could, then before we go, could you remind everybody about your podcast? And I suppose we should mention Doc again.
Doc. Doc who? What?
Yeah, exactly. Some drunk from Carolinas. I don't know. Hey, no, Doc, we love you. I didn't mean that. But mention where people can get in touch with you and
Sure.
what stuff you got going out.
Yeah, if you're interested in the podcast, best place to go is straight to iTunes. Do a search for Safety Solutions Academy. We have got 360-ish episodes up, anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour and a half in length. So there's lots of material there. In addition to that, you can find out a ton more about what's going on at Safety Solutions Academy. We've got a pretty active blog there. And you can follow the link to the store, and that's where all the training courses are at. I'd love to see folks out at the range getting some training. SSA.training/travel tells you how to get to Cleveland, where to stay, where to eat when you get there. So come join us. We'd love to have you.
Very cool. Well, thanks again for coming on the show, and I'd love to have you back again in the future, man.
That'd be great. Thanks so much for having me, and happy Easter to everybody.
You bet. And we'll be right back with our DGUs right after this. With that little pause in there, that should come out right to about 15 minutes. So
Beautiful.
Very cool. Thank you.
No problem.
See you in Nashville?
Absolutely. Is everybody that's going to Nashville going to be at the Glock event?
I don't think I'll be there.
Okay. Well, let's try and meet up on the floor.
Well, you'll be in the media room.
I will be in the media room. Love that place.
See you there.
Excellent. All right, everybody. Hey, thanks so much for having me. I'm going to go ahead, jump out, pack up, and jump on an airplane. So we'll catch you guys on the podcast, okay?
Safe travels.
Safe flying, man.
All right, you as well. Bye-bye.
Okay. Intro. Ooh, we got to edit this yet. So we just need Rob's, and why don't we just for the what's going to be the midweek show? Why don't we do? We'll just keep Paul Carlson for my ease of editing. We'll keep Paul Carlson on this show that we'll release probably tomorrow night, because I know we just released one last night. I don't want to release them back to back.
Right, back to back.
Why don't we leave Paul Carlson on this one, and then for the midweek we'll have the two interviews. It's 45 minutes of interview that we did earlier today. So, okay.
Safety Solutions, was that him?
Yeah, Safety Solutions Academy. And I think that, yep, that looks good to me. Are we ready to jump in and record the intro and personal news segment? And when we get to personal news, we're going to go Gary, Rob, John, me. Okay, just want to check. Yeah, we're all good everywhere. Okay, if we're ready. 5. Hi, and welcome to the Polite Society Podcast presented by the Firearms Policy Coalition. We're recording this one live Sunday, April 5th, 2015. I'm Paul Lathrop.
I'm Rob Morse, and on tonight's show we talk with Paul Carlson from Safety Solutions Academy.
John, your mic's muted.
Sorry.
That's all right. Let's start this all over again, so I don't have a wicked bad time editing.
By the way, I hear somebody. It sounds like they're banging the table, touching the table. The cord is hitting the table and ringing. Something's going on.
Okay. Well, part of that's, if you're talking about that, that's me switching screens. I'll do that as little as I have to.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go. 5. Hi, and welcome to the Polite Society Podcast, presented by the Firearms Policy Coalition. We're recording this one live Sunday, April 25th, 2015. I'm Paul Lathrop.
Isn't it April 5th, Paul?
April 5th?
You said the 25th.
I did?
You did.
Oh, jeez. All right, hang on one more time. My bad. Here we go.
Which would be a Saturday.
Oh, okay. Well.
Other than that.
And I'd be 58 then.
Oh.
Happy birthday. Squirrel. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Here we go. Hi, and welcome to the Polite Society Podcast, presented by the Firearms Policy Coalition. We're recording this one live Sunday, April 5th, 2015. I'm Paul Lathrop.
I'm Rob Morse, and on tonight's show, we will talk with Paul Carlson from Safety Solutions Academy.
I'm John Richardson, and we'll talk about Chris Christie's pardon of Shaneen Allen.
I'm Gary Doherty, and in one of our DGUs, we talk about a former boyfriend that used a brick and the current boyfriend that used a gun. So climb aboard.
Strap in.
And hang on.
Episode 323 of the Polite Society Podcast starts right now. Okay, let's get at it. Going to the personal news segment. Gary, what's been up with you since the last time we've been on the air?
Well, right after the day after that we recorded the last show, Santa Christensen showed up at my house with my new double stack, double mag carrier. Thank you, Jason. I've been practicing with it. It is very comfortable, fits snugly. I think, if anything, slightly too snugly, but that will work in well with plenty of practice on it. So, once again, thank you, Jason. Very beautiful work. Very excited.
Yeah, Jason makes some amazing stuff. I use his stuff exclusively, and that mag carrier looks really good. Anything else going on with you?
No, that's it. Oh, yeah, as a matter of fact, yeah. I saw something in my weekly perusals of gun news websites, et cetera, and something occurred to me that, you know how when you get into the groove and you start doing things, you don't think to mention them. And we've been kind of training secrets, tricks that we do when we're training and stuff like that. Rob and I talked about moving and shooting. Something else that I do, there was a good article about upping the stress level when you're training, is using a timer. And I don't have the shot timers are very, very expensive. I don't have one of those. I downloaded one for $1 or $2, or maybe it was free on my phone, my smartphone. You can adjust the sound sensitivity. I've never used it at the range. I use it for dry fire practice, and it picks up the clicks of my gun. I usually keep it either right in front of me or in a pocket, depending on what I'm wearing. A shirt pocket, so it's near enough, and it picks it up fine. It beeps. It gets So when you're doing those kind of drills that have a par time that you're shooting for, if you're looking for like a draw, you want to get it down to 2 seconds, 1.5 seconds, whatever your goal is. It really does help, and we all have. Most of us have smartphones now, and it works perfectly, and it really does amp you up your stress level, and works great for that. So.
And it beats people throwing bricks at you.
It does beat that, yes.
Oh, to up the stress level.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Hey, Gary, you want to mention the name of the app?
If I can find it real quick, sure. I'm on iOS, so I'm sure they timer. That's a good point. It is not where I thought I had it.
Oh,
when you find it, I'd like to know. In fact, let's do a shout out to our listeners. If they use a similar phone app, share it with us.
Absolutely.
Well, I have one on my phone, also on iOS, from Surefire, the Surefire shot timer.
That is one of the ones that I looked at. Why can't I find it now? Thanks for the pressure, Rob.
I'm about to torque off half our audience because you use an Apple product and they're not easy to use.
Exactly. That was my point. Exactly. I would just wanted to prove that to everybody.
When you find it, just jump in. Next up is going to be Rob. Rob, what's been up with you, man?
As you guys know, I live in California, and we talk about gun regulations frequently on this show, and I had a face full of them this week. We have waiting periods. So I wanted a Glock 19, ordered it, waited 10 days. By the way, I also ordered new holsters for it. Thank you, Jason at Concealment Solutions. Back to the Glock. I'm looking for suggestions about replacement metal sights, so I hope our listeners will write in and give me some emails. But I went to go and sell a Glock as well. And I'd just come off a little training stint where I'd found a student who had hands that were so small she couldn't reach the trigger. I was using somebody else's 1911 and 22, and she literally, even if she stretched, could not reach the trigger. I found out that a Ruger Mark II was just a little bit smaller. She could get on it. They make a 80% 1911 by Browning, which was sort of the smallest. If it were in a rifle, you'd call it length of pull. But from the web of your thumb out to your index finger, it was significantly smaller, and I wanted a small gun for children and students with small hands. Couldn't buy it. It is allowed in California. It's on roster. But California has a one gun a month rule. I have to wait 20 days after I did my last pickup before I can get a new firearm. Fortunately, the gun store let me sort of, you can't buy it, but we'll hold it for you because you put some money down. Okay, fine. Yeah. I can finish the order when I'm back from the NRA convention. I mailed in my Arizona and Utah non-resident CCW applications. So I'm looking forward to counting the days now as I wait 2 months to hear anything back.
Yeah.
Oh, no. It won't take that long.
Arizona and Utah?
Arizona's less than a month.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Utah, I don't have enough students to give you an accurate number on Utah because I don't teach that yet, but Arizona, less than a month.
Cool.
Yeah, for sure.
The only thing is, can you get more than one piece of mail per month?
Yes, I think so.
Well, they're limiting your firearms purchases,
Right.
They're limiting your Second Amendment. I would think maybe they'd try to
go
limit
for
your
my first while we're there as well.
Yeah.
Let's see. I wrote an article about campus carry and also interviewed Amber Cuno about campus carry. Well, we've got Doug Ritter on cue after Nashville. Oh, we'll talk about this last, I hope. I promoted John Lott's fundraiser on my blog.
Yes, we will be getting to that. Yes, very much so. Simon says Train just chimed in. He said, I have a Samsung phone, and he uses the IPSC Shot Timer app. It's free, he says.
IPSC Shot Timer, all right.
Yeah, my free shot timer is from Innovative Solutions.
Okay.
Yeah, just do a search in your whatever store you use for a free shot timer, and I was just looking. There's a bunch of them.
Cool. Now, John, you might have had something like this happen to you. All of a sudden, I had 600 hits on my blog because somebody found an old article of mine, put it on a forum somewhere, but the way they have their cookies configured, I have no idea where it came from. Not a clue.
Yeah, I had something like that happen. Some guy in a talk show mentioned me, one of these things that airs at like 2:30 in the morning, talk shows, and I can't remember who it was, and I've never heard of the guy, but I got like 7,000 hits from the guy. Now, it could be better.
Oh,
We could be like Kevin Baker of The Smallest Minority. He had some blog post picked up by the Blaze, and he got 2 million hits.
Whoops.
wow.
Now, that could
two
be
more-
just a legend, but that's what I've heard.
Two more comments have come in. ND Worker says that she's used the Surefire Shot Timer app on Android. And Simon says, Train talking about waiting time for permits, said he waited 6 weeks for his Utah permit.
Ooh.
So,
I waited
all right.
85 days for my North Carolina permit the first time.
wow. All right. Well, next up then is John. John, what's been up with you, man?
Well, I've been doing a lot of work in home-related stuff, so I don't have to worry about it this coming week with the NRA annual meeting. And stuff included finishing my taxes.
Yeah.
I won't be buying any guns real soon.
I'm sorry, John.
It's the state that got me, not the feds.
Okay.
And we have our my older stepdaughter and her husband here over the Easter weekend. You know, it's kind of great to have family here over the holiday. And you know, we've talked about the annual meeting, and there's so much to see and do. And unfortunately, there are conflicts. I mean, I will be able to get out to test the new Glock 43 on Thursday, but I can't go to the Dr. John Lott event due to a conflicting event. It was like, well, I got invited to a dinner with Marcus Luttrell, the lone survivor, and I'm like,
Yeah.
this is a once in a lifetime
Yep.
event.
You're gone.
I
Yeah.
can't do that. I can't miss that.
Yep.
And somebody else is paying for the food, so.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
Those are just the sacrifices we have to make sure our listeners are covered at every event.
There you go. And if anybody has any questions you would like to ask, let us know, because he said he would be glad to answer questions.
Cool.
Yeah, very cool.
So that's pretty much it for me.
Okay, well, that leaves Susan and I. I've been working really hard on getting the audiobook done. For longtime listeners, you know that I'm going to be doing some recording, and actually, I'm not going to be the voice anymore. I did try. I got started recording R.P. Ruggiero's Brushfire Plague, and it took over 7 hours to get me through just chapter 1, and there's like 29 chapters in the book.
Whoa.
So I reached out, and the young lady you hear that does our ads that we play in the show, her name's Melissa, and she's a real actress, and she agreed to come on, and I talked with the guys at Prepper Press and the author, and we recorded a short audition, said, you know, it's going to take me until the 5th Thursday of, you know, September next year to get this done. It's going to be a lot faster if we have Melissa read it. And she's a real actress, and she does a great job. We met yesterday and did 7.5 hours of recording. We actually were here 8 hours, but we took a half-hour lunch break. And recorded the first half of the book, and I'm in the middle of editing that. We're going to meet in 2 weeks and lay down the rest of the audiobook. But that's been just totally consuming my time while I've been home.
So you
Recorded
you come off the road and get to jump into that when you're home.
Yeah, very much so. And now I'm going to say that editing that is, other than we're talking about this book is going to probably be about 16 hours of total audio just for this book. Now, recording those 16 hours of audio is, and it'll break down because, of course, nobody reads straight through without error. You do have to do some editing. But editing for that and editing for the show are two entirely different beasts. And it's actually, because of the way we record it, a little easier to edit that. Instead of is about, I would say, editing for the show, you would, if you weren't doing it quick and dirty like I normally end up doing it, if you were actually trying to go through and make sure everything is perfect, it's about 3 minutes for every minute of audio. Well, editing for the book is closer to 2 minutes because she is so good at what she does and makes so few errors. It's a lot faster. But other than that, we did record interviews already this morning. We talked about the Canada situation with the Quebec Gun Registry. We got a 30-minute interview there, and then we had an interview with Kathy Jackson and Melody Lauer that we're going to be airing. Those two interviews are going to be on the midweek show this week, but we already got them in the can. The interviews are already done. And I'm getting ready to go to work again tomorrow. I got to leave out tomorrow morning. I really wish Susan and I could get to the NRA annual meeting. That's not going to happen this year. Susan, you've been just pretty much dealing with there's a new guy at work, and he is a challenge.
He's definitely a challenge. I don't think this guy is going to last very long at all.
This is a kid that he'd be really good on the other side of the gun debate because he's factually challenged.
Exactly.
Factually challenged.
He's 19 years old, claims he's a diesel mechanic, which would be a minor miracle because it's at least 2 years in school to go through diesel mechanic school. Claims he owned a couple.
Claims he's owned a couple tractors, a combine, a condo. Peterbilt called him a couple days ago and offered him $40 an hour to come work on their trucks,
rather than working in a
gas station.
Deli, a gas station deli. Yeah, and he turned him down because he's tired of working 80 hours a week and busting his knuckles. So
he's got an extensive fantasy life.
Yes,
exactly.
Very much so. So
I guess you're not going to buy him mechanics gloves to protect his knuckles.
Yeah.
But you got your APU fixed, huh?
Yeah, we had an issue with it last week. Yeah, it's stopped charging again. It'll run, it'll start, but it won't provide me AC power inside the truck, which is what, of course, the laptop runs on. And my laptop, I bought a fairly top-of-the-line laptop, but it sucks a lot of the juice. So the little 400-watt the little 400-watt inverter I carry with me for emergencies will not power my laptop. It overloads the laptop, overloads the inverter. So if I don't have an APU, I can't run the laptop on the road.
That's a shame. It would run an Apple. So
that's because apples are wimps and they don't take that much power. They don't do anything.
That's because they weigh maybe 2 pounds.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I do want to mention before we go off to break, I do have 2 training classes coming up in Sioux Falls this summer. Coming up, going to be just a little over a month away. Bob Main, Ben Branham are coming up to do Beyond Concealed Carry Enhanced. You can register for that one at handgunworld.com. That one is extremely close to a sellout. So if you're planning on coming up to that, get on it. You don't want to be on a waiting list and hoping that somebody cancels so you can get in. Also, Kathy Jackson, who you're going to be hearing on the midweek show, she's going to be coming up to do her Cornered Cat co-ed class in August. If you want to get in on that one, you want to contact Susan at politicsandguns.com. My beautiful wife, Susan, over here would be happy to talk to you and let you know what you need for that class. We're going to go ahead and step aside to break here. When we come back, we've got a ton of news, and we will get to that news right after this. Okay. It is getting warm in here, but I don't want to turn the AC on or open the window because that'll make a bunch of noise.
Exactly. Especially when the dogs hear somebody out there and start going off on the
neighbors. I'm sorry for the dogs barking, guys. There's very little we can do about that. They smelled a squirrel or something. Okay, show notes. All right, are we ready to jump into news?
Let's go.
I'm ready.
John, you said you might have to leave early today. When are you bugging out?
We're not, because we already ate. I thought we were going to eat later.
Oh, okay.
So we ate before the show.
There you go. Okay. Yeah, I
Okay,
brought
well,
us in already.
I'm going to eat after the show since we're reporting on that news.
Okay.
I already ate. I didn't bring anything home for Paul.
All right. Rob, you want to bring us in the news? Rolling.
Welcome back to the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. This is our news segment. What's our first article?
Exhibiting none of the decisive aggressiveness he's shown around the buffet tables, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie has finally done the right thing and pardoned Shaneen Allen. 18 months ago, Allen was arrested for mistakenly taking her concealed carry pistol into New Jersey. Allen was pulled over for a minor traffic offense, and as an honest citizen, she immediately informed the officer that she was carrying a weapon. The cops' reactions were likewise immediate. They slapped on the cuffs and charged her with multiple felonies. The single mother of two spent the next 46 days in jail when prosecutor John McClain decided to make an example of her. Even though Allen had a clean record, he denied her a diversion program and threatened to crush her with the full power of the state. She faced a miserable future of more than 11 years in prison, all for an offense without intent or victim. However, festering corporation corruption like Jersey's can rarely stand continuous attention. Weeks later, McClain cynically sent a woman-beating professional football player into the same diversion program that he denied Allen. That travesty caused gun rights organizations and the odd podcasters and blogger or two to ignite a nationwide firestorm. McClain had to ungracefully back down and let Allen into the diversion program. Now, still feeling the residual heat, Christie has pardoned Allen. However, the insane laws that jailed her remain in force. Hundreds of other law-abiding citizens, like Brian Aiken, are destroyed for similar petty violations of the state's draconian, unconstitutional gun laws. Christie has done nothing to stop those injustices. You can choke on your presidential ambitions, big guy.
You know, I actually read the pardon, and just kind of doing a little looking around, and it's interesting that at the bottom it says that this pardon can be revoked at any time by the governor. And it's not written by the governor who issued it. And I couldn't find any instances of it being revoked. Interesting aside, a presidential pardon can never be revoked. So, just...
You know, that's pretty interesting. You would think that if you go to the effort to pardon somebody for that particular offense, they're pardoned. It's permanent. It's almost like you always have that sword hanging over your head.
Yeah, yeah.
It's almost like it was designed for political purposes.
Yeah.
Gee, imagine that.
In New Jersey? Wow.
I want to mention that Charlie Foxtrot, who does a great job writing up our show notes, wrote this up as the odd podcasters. Do you think he was taking a direct jab at us as he was writing that up?
Well, they don't come a whole lot odder than us.
All right. Well, I do want to say to Shaneen, thank you for standing up for your rights, and I really wish you hadn't gone through what you did. Thank you for standing up and fighting, and thank you to Evan Knappen for helping muscle everything through that you did. And thank you to all the other podcasters that joined in with us, and to Tom Gresham, and to Armed American Radio, and everybody that got her into the diversion program, because that's what it took, was a national effort. And as much as I would like to lay claim to it myself, we may bear just a tiny, itty-bitty little portion of responsibility of helping getting the word out to everyone. But I think Frank Fiamengo, who at the time was president of NJ2AS, did a great job. He he messaged with me at the time this was going on, and together we helped get him on a whole bunch of shows besides ours. And I think him jumping on the national stage like he did is really what brought that about. So,
Paul, it also might have been $40,000 worth of billboard buys in the Capitol. That had something to do with it.
Yep. So yeah, I'm glad it's worked out. And again, Miss Allen, if you're listening, I thank you for standing up and making your fight. I wish you wouldn't have had to go through with it, but I'm glad it finally worked out, and hopefully it works out forever.
Yeah, and also let's hope this is a trend for the other victims of this ridiculous law. Brian Aiken is another prominent name. Stefan Josie.
Josie, right.
You know, this is just...
There are hundreds of them.
There is hundreds of them. It's just a couple of more well-known names, and hers is also one of them. But they're very similar situations. There were people that did not, like initially we said, did not have the intent. And, I mean, that should really be taken into account in this.
It was a paperwork violation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a look at the other end of the political spectrum with a governor that does support the rights of his citizens. One of our listeners sent this in. Kansas Governor Sam Brownback signed permitless concealed carry into law. 5 states have now adopted constitutional carry. We reported on the bill's passage through the legislature last week. The Kansas bill enjoyed strong bipartisan support in both legislative branches, as well as broad popularity with Kansans. Now, Governor Brownback's signature has made it law. Opponents were quick to quibble with the freedoms and corresponding responsibilities inherent in the bill. Predictably, some of the loudest screeching was from Bloomberg's demanding moms. Disputing the Second Amendment deniers, Brownback noted that the state's experience with concealed carry has been both positive and safe. Again, congratulations, Jayhawks.
You know, this is a wonderful trend. I'm sure California and Illinois are not far to follow, right?
You'll be here all week, right, Gary?
That's right.
Yeah, I don't think.
Yep.
FBI Director James Comey was testifying before a House committee when he expressed support for concealed carriers. Comey stated, under oath, that in his decades-long law enforcement career, he's never had a problem with concealed carriers. He seemed genuinely supportive of the armed citizen. Although his political masters can't be happy about that comment, we applaud FBI Director Comey for his integrity and his honesty.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Fortunately, he has appointments for a 10-year period, so he doesn't have to worry about the Obama administration anymore.
There you go. There you go.
Last week, we discussed the misadministration's Operation Choke Point, which abuses the regulatory process in order to deny financial services to businesses that they feel are objectionable. Politically incorrect firms such as the tobacco, coal, and gun industries have been illegally targeted. In Florida, there's strong indications that the operation is still active. American Gun and Pawn recently received notice that the SunTrust Bank would be closing their accounts within 10 days. No reason for the closure was given. The business is said to be an exemplary customer with perfect credit and no overdrafts. The owner demanded an explanation. A bank representative wasn't sure why SunTrust was closing his account, but they did know that a lot of gun shops had received similar letters all across the country. It was a corporate decision. The gun store owner plans on talking to an attorney. In a society where bakers are forced by law to make cakes, how is this possible? Oh, right. a pen, and a phone.
You know, if I were a SunTrust customer, and this is for our listeners who are, you may want to talk to your local banker and say, this really disturbs me, and I'm seriously considering moving my banking business to another bank. If enough people do it, they're going to start noticing.
Amen. Amen.
I mean, I did it with Bank of America. I closed an account that we had with them for 38 years.
Wow.
And they had done the same thing to Kelly McMillan. And I said, enough is enough.
We this week, and we've been, since we converted the podcast, I'm just going to, listeners, we had been, like a lot of podcasts, I had been running the show off of, a lot of the sponsorships were, okay, we'll work it out in trade. You give me some product, and I'll give you what that product would cost in advertising. Well, we switched. The podcast has grown exponentially in what it cost me to put the show out, and so I told all the advertisers, look, if you want to stay with the show, we need to convert to I need to actually get some money. Well, that means I'm getting money, which is a good thing, but the checks are being made out to the Polite Society podcast, not to Paul Lathrop. So I went to a bank here in town, and oh boy, the regulations and everything they wanted me to jump through.
Four pieces, well, 2 pieces of ID, and then they wanted copies of our Social Security number and an EIN number. They needed a piece of paper from the IRS. They needed to know who all our sponsors were, how much they were paying us every month. I mean,
for a checking account.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
So we went to the credit union.
Are you sure you weren't trying to buy a gun in California?
Well, see, that's just it. They said, what kind of business is this? I said, it's a pro-Second Amendment podcast.
Well, and they discovered that we needed not only Paul's 2 forms of ID for him, but if they needed that all for me too, and I needed to get my own separate EIN number, and we said, you know what, no, we're not going to do this.
We went to I've been a member of a credit union since I think I was about 3 when my dad joined, set up a savings account for me. And we just went to the credit union, and they said, Mr. Lathrop, how can we help you? Told them what I wanted to do, and 2 hours later, they not only set up the account, they made sure that a debit card was on the way, made sure that everything we needed to do with the account could be done. And so, if anybody's in a situation where if you own a gun-related business, check out your local credit unions. So. Anyway, any more comments on that one?
Sarah Brady, wife of James Brady and head of the anti-rights Brady campaign to prevent gun violence, has died. Her life was tragically altered by a madman's attack on President Reagan. Her husband, James Brady, was severely injured while in service to this country. Staff of the Polite Society podcast would like to extend their sincere condolences to Sarah Brady's friends and family.
Absolutely, totally agree. I will say this for Sarah Brady: she believed in what she was fighting for, and she fought very hard for what she believed in. And our condolences to her family.
In an effort that actually protects the youth of America, the NRA's Eddie Eagle Gun Safe program has now reached 26 million children in all 50 states. The nonpartisan program instructs school children on what to do if they encounter a firearm. The Stop, Don't Touch, Get an Adult training has certainly contributed to the plunging accidental death by firearms rates. We congratulate the NRA for their excellent program and their community spirit.
It's interesting that all those gun safety organizations, let's get real, gun control, they do nothing, absolutely nothing for safety. Yet it's the NRA who has traditionally done training and safety stuff for years. Go figure.
Yeah.
The NRA and the SAF report that the District of Columbia has dropped its appeal of a federal judge's ruling last July that struck down the city's ban on carrying firearms in public. The case, known as Palmer v. District of Columbia, declared the ban on carrying firearms outside of the home to be unconstitutional. Unfortunately, the district's decision is not the rush to sanity that it seems. The city is dropping its defense of Palmer to focus on defending its new concealed carry law against constitutional challenge. SAF fighter Alan Gottlieb noted that the district's current carry law is already being challenged. Under the present scheme, permit applicants must provide a good reason for carrying a firearm, and the police chief gets to decide whether that reason is valid. So far, few applicants have been approved. Gottlieb said, and that is, quote, a fundamental flaw. No public official should enjoy that kind of sway over a citizen's right to bear arms. It creates a manifestly unfair system that is wide open to abuse and favoritism, as we've seen in New York, California, and elsewhere, that insiders and elitists can get permits, but average citizens are routinely given second-class consideration or no consideration at all. End quote. We wish Alan Gottlieb Godspeed.
Gottlieb said something fascinating. We have regulations on the rights of free speech, but we don't turn down 98% of the applications for people that want to buy a newspaper or start one. When you have rejected people's ability to defend themselves to that extent, it isn't a right. It's been regulated to be a government privilege.
Absolutely. I saw an interview this week with Chief Kathy Lanier, and they were giving the statistics. There have been 400 permits for possessing a firearm in the home, and all of 21 carry permits issued, with 29 denied. Though she goes on to say, well, I really would have no trouble if there was a firearms store here in the district, as long as it was properly regulated.
Yeah, meaning the gun store gets to sell one gun a month.
Yeah.
Somebody voted those people into office. No, let's be clear. DC citizens voted those people into office.
Well, I did hear something along these lines, and it came from the Attorney General's of DC's note. The law that they passed, the current carry law, has until May to be overturned by Congress. If Congress doesn't disapprove it, it goes into effect. So it might be a chance to write your congressman and say, this law really looks unconstitutional. It's time for you guys to step up.
Well, they are. Marco Rubio has introduced a bill to. I haven't read it, but I assume to tame down because it's backed by the NRA, to tame down the ridiculous concealed carry law that they did enact.
The bill actually would mandate shall issue carry in the district.
Yeah.
All right, we got a lot more news to come, but we do have to step aside for break, and we'll be back with more news right after this. Okay. Chuck, Michelle.
Okay.
What about him?
Susan just wanted to know the pronunciation.
Oh, yeah.
I need, if my laptop, for some reason, I don't think the fan is working right, it is extremely hot. I'm going to get a cleaning spray to spray the laptop. Hopefully that'll kick the fan in. I will be right back.
Okay. If that doesn't work, Susan, get the bacon.
Easter ham? No? No? Come on.
We already had ham.
Huh. Again, I have
Put a little pineapple on there, and
Yeah, I don't like the cloves, but the pineapple, we can make this work, Susan.
Yes, we can. Actually, what I think.
and if
what
you
I
guys
think
were
I
closer,
might do
we
is-
would share some of the deviled eggs we made today
What about
Oh
me, Paul?
no, I had
Share them
I-
with
I
everybody.
with everybody.
Oh, okay.
the deviled eggs that we made, jalapeno bacon deviled eggs.
Nice.
Oh, that was good.
I'll be back.
Did you break the computer?
No, I just got to find out where the input is. Where the fan.
We
There
got
we go.
we got Paul a new stand so he can keep everything straight with the computer and the mixer and everything in like one area instead of everything spread out everywhere, and he hasn't quite figured out where to put it on the stand yet, so it's not blocking the intake.
Yeah, the laptop actually sits on top of the mixer, which is convenient because it makes a very small footprint on the desk. However, if your stand is covering up the air, there we go. Now it's cooling down a bit. If it's covering up the air intake for the fan, then
That's no good.
yeah, exactly.
Again, that wimpy Apple never has that problem. It's so weird.
Yeah, it's because
Because it
nothing
rocks.
nothing about Apple can be considered hot. Simon says, Train says, New Jersey has a justifiable need provision to give permits to citizens. That is why there are less than 1,500 CCW in the state. Very few can prove the need to judges. Very, very true.
Amazingly enough, even judges have been unsuccessful at proving to judges there's a justifiable need.
Yeah. By the way, Tony, it's Simon says, Train, I believe, if I'm remembering right, his first name is Tony. Thanks for watching every day, every week, man, and thanks for keeping us, keeping that feedback coming in. We do really appreciate that.
If he's watching every day, he's gonna get kind of lonely out there all by himself most of the time.
Well, okay, he just goes to YouTube and replays the show.
Oh, gotcha.
We're that entertaining.
That's why we have so many views on the last few.
Exactly.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, next segment. Go back to show notes.
You're short a chair.
Rob's not back yet.
Oh, okay. That's still warm.
Can you put any sort of block under just the edges so it'll have space underneath it?
Let me, since Rob's not back yet, let me go try something. I'll be right back. You know what my stand for that is? That stand?
Oh, jeez. The things I do to you and
Gary,
Sir.
I was reading Florida firearms law. You're supposed to know all this stuff about if you get a permit here. And I'm going,
Really?
Yes.
I just want to see if somebody got hurt. Wow.
Now, Rob, is your Glock a Gen 3?
Yes. Rather than 4.
I have got a Vickers extended release and mag release, slide release and mag release
Mm-hmm.
that I've never installed.
Oh,
Would you want them?
don't.
I'll be glad to give them to you.
which I've been told that the mag release, there's sort of like a little extended and then crazy extended, like for competition. Which would you say this is suitable for carry?
Yes. And the slide release just makes it a little bit more positive to hit.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'd very much like that.
Down.
I'll dig them out and bring them with me.
Okay,
Downward, stable,
awesome.
and then raise it up a little. Like that, and then raise it up. I think we just need to figure out what we're doing.
But Gary, I've never.
We need to get a clue.
Okay, now I gotta adjust my microphone again.
All right.
Reading all those gun laws, I'm going, man. A bunch of guys, we all took the same course. We're going, okay, we do this in round. You read a paragraph, take a sip, next guy's turn, and every time the word reasonable and responsible is, everybody has to take a shot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Goes on for 20 pages.
Yeah. Well, that's why I preach. When you're traveling, look it up. Paul knows this stuff because he goes to these states every week. But I'm sure the next time I go to Wisconsin, I will look it up again.
Sure.
Just to
Hand
refresh.
in law, U.S.
To see if there have been any changes, things like that. When I'm driving cross country, when I was driving to South Dakota, I went through Iowa, Minnesota, South Dakota. I had to look up all those things. So I just think that the class is fine, but when you're traveling, you got to look that stuff up again because the laws are changing all the time, and the information is different, and you need to refresh in your memory because you're not dealing with those laws every day like we do in our home states.
Right. Right. For example, in California, you can't carry in the glove compartment. That's not considered a sealed, locked compartment of the car. In Florida, it is.
Right. Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's what it makes it so funny for someone like Paul who's driving and has different state because he's hitting them every week.
3 of them a day.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, yeah. Or more. In one day, I can be quite often, I'll start off in South Dakota and get into Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois, and sometimes into Indiana in one day.
Well, if you get the Illinois right, then you're definitely good in Indiana.
I love Indiana, man. They accept everybody, and they're actually fairly reasonable in their laws.
Well, is it? I didn't see it in here. Ohio's now accepting everybody, starting the 14th.
Yes. No, it's already in.
It's already in place.
And North Carolina's accepted everybody for the last year and a half.
All right, we ready to kick off the next segment?
Try again.
Okay, here we go.
If we're cool, we can start.
Yeah. I'm always cool, dude.
Yeah, whatever. You're the one that was just saying you was too hot.
Oh, well, that's a good kind of hot, though.
I couldn't have said that about you at 3:30 this morning.
All right. Here we go. Hey, and welcome back to the second news segment of the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. Susan, we got some California news to talk about.
California's citizens continue their appetite for handguns despite all their betters do to frustrate their wishes. California Department of Justice statistics show an increasing rate of legal handgun purchases, while gun violence, which largely involves handguns, has continued to fall. In his blog piece, attorney Chuck Michel of CalGunLaws.com discussed the discordant trends within California. Contrary to claims made by the gun-banning politicians, California's plummeting gun violence rate has no statistical relationship to the new gun control laws. The new gun control laws greatly inconvenienced the law-abiding gun owners and buyers, but had nothing to do with the declining crime rate. Michel credits the new crime control laws. In 1993, California voters passed a pair of laws over the objections of their progressive politicians. The 3-strike and the 10-20 life laws, gun use law, took many career criminals off the streets. As a result of that time-honored formula, crime rates declined. Predictably, California's politicians are working to blunt the teeth of those laws. California.
Amen.
Yeah, I just
remember.
Go ahead, John.
I was going to say, if I remember correctly, they also talked about the book, the economics book, and I can't think the name of it. It just went out of my head. I'm sorry. Cut that part out.
Okay.
Oh, what's that?
Susan, you want to skip the next news story?
There is some common sense in Oregon. Gun rights advocates have long asked for pre-approval to buy guns, and conversely, a mark on a driver's license that shows who is not permitted to buy firearms. The Oregon gun owner registration bill was stalled. An amendment proposed by Senator Kim Thatcher would eliminate the onerous background check requirements on private transfers and replace them with a system whereby only prohibited persons would be identified. This is how it works. If you're a prohibited person, your driver's license would include an indicator, just as it does now for corrective lenses or organ donation. Non-prohibited persons would have no change on their license. If you wanted to transfer a firearm, you would only need to see the back of the recipient's driver's license or state ID card. If there is no prohibiting mark, then the transfer is made without a background check. There are no fees, no registration, and no paperwork. There will be no record of the transfer and no list of guns or gun owners. Firearms transfers at dealers would have no changes, except a dealer would have the advantage of knowing beforehand that a person was going to be denied and could save himself the time and expense of running the background check.
Well, I'm
Russell
really-
Smith. Russell Smith
Yeah.
proposed this earlier, as did Jeff Knox.
It's a solution in looking for a problem. I really believe it is.
So
It's already illegal to sell firearms to a felon. It's a federal law. You cannot do it.
Would it be better to have the marked driver's license or the universal background checks in
None
Oregon?
of the above.
That's not the choice you get, Paul. You're
Yes,
not
it
God.
is.
You're a voter.
No,
One.
but I have the ability to fight these things, and I'm going to fight them both.
Oh, good. So you'll end up with. Oh, that'll be interesting. We'll see how that turns out.
In more news from Oregon, the mandatory background check bill was proposed by State Senator Chuck Riley. Riley won election by 280 votes after he accepted $75,000 from Bloomberg. Now there are plans for a recall effort to remove Senator Riley. Just like Colorado, citizen activists are researching the recall process, reaching out to volunteers, and contacting prospective candidates to take Senator Riley's vacant seat.
In this, in the testimony that they were making on the Oregon concealed carry bill, or the mandatory background check bill, they turned away 68 citizens who wanted to testify against the bill.
But they allowed Dan Gross of the Brady campaign and Gabby Giffords of Arizona, both of whom I would characterize as carpetbaggers, to testify.
Yeah.
And finally, this week brought us a sickening object lesson on why arms are necessary in a world where evil thrives. The Islamic extremist group Al-Shabaab was proud to massacre 148 people in a Nigerian college.
I'm out.
After killing
It's actually a Kenyan college.
Kenyan college?
Kenyan.
In Kenya.
Okay. Let's start that over again then. And finally this week brought us a sickening... That's all right. Finally this week brought us a sickening object lesson on why arms are necessary in a world where evil thrives. The Islamic extremist group Al-Shabaab was proud to massacre 148 people in a Kenyan college. After killing 2 guards at the gates, the 4 terrorists were free to roam the school, killing as they pleased. Christians were specifically identified for slaughter. Muslims were allowed to go free. Police responded within minutes, but were unfortunately far too late. The murderers were eventually cornered in a school dormitory where, with no more innocents left to kill, they committed suicide. They left behind chaos and blood-soaked horror. This atrocity was organized by the same Al-Qaeda-affiliated terrorists that assaulted Nairobi, Kenya's high-end Westgate shopping mall. 67 lives were taken in an attack that lasted 4 days. Many lessons became obvious. No less than the Secretary General of Interpol recommended an armed citizenry as a way of protecting people from mass shootings. He noted that it was virtually impossible to stop killers from getting weapons, and that you can't have armed police forces everywhere. He further stated that if you have to ask if an armed citizenry is more necessary now than it was in the past, with an ever-evolving threat of terrorism. Unfortunately, Interpol's recommendations were too easy for governments to ignore. Terrorism experts expect that these types of attacks will certainly come to American soil. Al-Shabaab boasts that no amount of precaution or safety measures will be able to guarantee your safety, thwart another attack, or prevent another bloodbath. The armed citizens of this nation disrespectfully disagree. We arm, we practice, we carry, and we resist our government's efforts to disarm us in the face of these and many other evils. Stay safe out there. It's a dangerous world.
You know, it's a little easier to see when the politics are in a foreign country. Kenya could arm its citizens. Kenyan politics might have to change and represent their citizens a little more closely. Instead, they could say, no, we'll protect you. We'll put all these security restrictions in place to control you. In Kenya, it looks like corrupt politics. In the United States, we call it common sense gun control.
Yeah. You know, I read a book not that long ago by William Fortune. He's a local history professor here in North Carolina. He had written 1 Second After, but the new book was called Day of Wrath. And it was a hypothetical way that Al-Qaeda or any of the ISIS terrorists infiltrate 200 terrorists into the country, put them in groups of 5, 3 attack a school, 2 sit on the interstates nearby and shoot at cars as the parents race to the schools.
Oh, jeez.
It sounds altogether too believable, and do it across the country. And the goal was to get us to essentially do away with the Constitution.
We've got a bunch of politicians that would love to do that.
You bet.
Yeah.
One of them is sitting in the Oval Office.
Yeah.
Oh, Rob, you got some personal news you want to share, right?
Thank you, Paul. I'm getting together with some friends at the NRA convention, and I want you to join us. I'm meeting with editor Katie Pavlich, author Brad Thor, commentator Dana Lash, rocker Ted Nugent, Professor John Lott, news celebrity Mark Walters, Tom Gresham, Tim Schmidt, and Nikki Gozer. We're having a little stand-up buffet and dessert. It runs on Friday from 6:30 to 9 p.m. It's in the downtown Hilton, which is right next to the convention center. By the way, you can also shoot with several of these celebrities the next morning. There is a fee, and the proceeds support Dr. John Lott's Crime Prevention Research Center. Check his website, crimepreventionresearchcenter.org, for tickets. I'll see you there.
I really, really wish I could go down to Nashville.
Most
specifically because I would love to go to this.
Yeah, the dessert is $50. Where else am I going to get to talk to these folks? Oh my gosh!
Exactly.
Well, Nikki will talk to me anywhere, but yeah.
yeah. Nikki's been on the show, and yeah, she'll talk with us anytime. But yeah, I would. Oh goodness, I would love. Mainly, I'd like to go there and lasso some of these people to come on the show.
I'm sure Rob will do that for you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can be rather forceful when I'm in person.
Oh.
I want to talk to Katie about Safe Haven.
Yes,
Absolutely.
I wish a lot of these people throwing a plug in for the SAF. A lot of these people show up at the SAF event they do in the fall, the Gun Rights Policy Conference.
Right.
And I've never seen. I've seen Tom Gresham there. I met Tom Gresham there this year. I had dinner with Mark Walters down in Orlando. Got to talk with John Lott. Not seen Nugent there or Dana Loesch or Katie Pavlich. But anyway, if you're going to be in Nashville, yeah, spend the $50. You'll have a blast.
It'll be money well spent.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to be supporting Dr. Lott's Crime Prevention Research Center, and that's great.
Go ahead, Paul.
That's I'm just going to say he's doing great work.
Yeah. Now, if you drop a little money on him as one of the organizations you'd support during the year, you'd already have the banquet paid for.
There you go.
And you can take it off your taxes.
And we're all thinking about taxes this time of year. We got a gun quote that was sent in by a listener, right, Susan?
This was sent in by Ken from Arizona. I am concerned for the safety of our great nation, not so much because of any threat from without, but because of the insidious forces working from within. That was from General Douglas MacArthur. Hang on, everybody. We'll be right back with our interview segment.
I thought maybe we were going to be short on that news segment, but we're right on. Just under 15 minutes.
Perfect.
Okay. DGUs.
Which interviews are you going to run here, Paul?
Just going to run the Paul Carlson one, and then we'll save the other two interviews we did this morning for the midweek show. Okay. Are we ready to kick off into the DGUs?
Yep.
All right. Live viewers, we haven't been getting any comments. I've been watching, so keep them coming. Here we go. DGUs in 5. Actually, John, you want to bring us in?
Sure.
Rolling now.
Welcome back to the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. This is our defensive gun use segment. Susan, what is the first DGU you're going to tell us about?
From Smyrna, Georgia, comes an event where an armed citizen saved a woman from death or serious injury. The man ran toward the fracas and fired a shot at a carjacker, likely saving the woman, who was on the car's hood. The shot hit the thief in the shoulder, stopping the car. Our congratulations to the CCW holder. He acted to preserve a life. But we have to question the sanity of the woman who jumped on the hood of her car. Do you think our hero used a Glock, Paul? Smyrna is the headquarters of Glock USA.
I seen the video, but I couldn't get it tight enough on the gun to tell.
Probably in 1911.
Yeah, could very well be. I did want to just go back on. A car is a car. Your car is getting carjacked. Okay, it sucks. I hope you have insurance because you know what? It'll help you replace the car. Don't jump on the damn hood. And yeah, the car was accelerating hard away from this place. If that would have made it into traffic, I do believe that woman would have been hurt, if not killed. So I guess were I in this guy's place, I probably would have done the same thing. The not the lady on the hood, but the concealed carry holder that was near there. But I just wow, yeah, you're getting your cars hijacked. Is that worth your life?
Well, we know the answer. It's not. Things are things, folks. Let them go.
A woman used her firearm to save her brother during a home invasion At 3:40 a.m. in the mean streets of Detroit. Awakened by a scuffle downstairs, the woman grabbed her gun. She fired several times, wounding one of the two attacking her brother. Both assailants ran off. Several minutes later, a 21-year-old appeared at the local hospital, where he is now listed in critical condition. Predictably, the shootee did not mention any home invasion, but told police that someone shot him on Chandler Park, and he called his cousin to take him to the hospital. Yeah, right. Neighbors interviewed about the incident said they would have done the same thing. They also encouraged every Detroit homeowner to get a concealed carry permit so they can have a gun with them, not only in the house, but outside.
Amen.
I wonder if this lady was taught by Rick Ector.
Entirely possible. He's taught a ton of people up there.
He's legally armed in Detroit. Is it Detroit Firearms Academy? Firearms Academy of Detroit.
Oh, Detroit, yeah.
A Tennessee store owner is lucky to be alive after having his throat slashed with a box cutter. The owner of Discount Tobacco and Beer was assaulted by a man with a long criminal history, as well as a razor. The unprovoked slashing attack barely missed one of the owner's main arteries. Desperately injured, he was still able to draw his permitted concealed carry firearm and shoot to stop his attacker. The man was later found dead a short distance away by police. The store owner is not expected to face any charges.
If I'm remembering right, this one was in the Memphis area. And I watched a video from a local news station, or a local TV station news segment, where the owner of the store next door was so shocked because we live in such a good neighborhood. And I'm thinking to myself, a good area of Memphis? Now there's an idea.
Or as a cop told me once, Mogadishu on the Mississippi.
There you go.
Wow.
In Harris County, Texas, a love triangle turned deadly for the jilted lover. The ex-boyfriend showed up at a woman's house with a brick to threaten her and her new boyfriend. In that potentially deadly situation, the new boyfriend shot and killed the assailant. Witnesses said the ex attempted to throw a brick at the boyfriend, prompting the boyfriend's shooting. It gets messy, as the new boyfriend may have been outside investigating a noise when the shot was fired. The police investigation is ongoing, but at this time it doesn't appear that the new boyfriend will be charged.
Yeah, a brick is, depending on the brick, I mean, if you're talking a regular brick like you'd put on the facade of a home, that's probably 5-6 pounds. That would cause some potentially deadly damage if it connected. We've got some of these bricks that are out by the side of our house. The what do you call those? They're significant. They're building blocks. They're
Cinder blocks.
Cinder blocks. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Those are significantly more heavy than that. And so yeah, I'm sorry if somebody's threatening me with that. I'm gonna defend my life. So yeah.
And people have been killed with bricks and cinder blocks over the years.
Mm-hmm.
A woman and her accomplice were foiled in their attempt to rob two men lured in by promises of a cheap PlayStation. The two men met Natasha Brady, 22, but wisely declined her instructions to go behind the house. That's when Brady's accomplice appeared with a gun and demanded their possessions. However, one of the buyers was armed and squared off with the robber, who dropped the pistol and ran. The pistol was later found to be a replica. Likewise, the PlayStation box only contained a brick. Brady was arrested for robbery, and her feckless accomplice is still being sought. Good on the men for exhibiting true gun sense. In the future, however, they might want to patronize a store where getting robbed is only a figure of speech.
You know, we've mentioned it on the show before. If not, you and I have talked about it personally, Susan. And that is, if you're going to meet somebody from Craigslist, meet them during the day if you can, and meet them like at a police station. Don't go, especially in some of these neighborhoods. Don't go anywhere near them. And if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
is.
Or it's stolen.
Yeah.
Well, another good reason to meet him at the police station. Here, I want your
Exactly.
face on video, dude.
Though, yeah,
Wasn't there?
it's almost like
Go
a
ahead,
trend. It's like there's a trend now that criminals are starting to use Craigslist as a way to, organize a robbery. This has happened so many times now.
You mean to lure a customer and then rob the customer?
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Or for sexual purposes.
Yeah.
Well, and there are numerous rummage sale sites on Facebook. I mean, you can type in any city rummage. Sioux Falls has dozens of them, and you have to watch out for the same thing on those sites as well.
Yeah.
So you just goes to show you can never be too careful.
Yeah. If I were going to be selling something, I'm not going to give out where I live to the general audience, because that could be just anybody. But I don't think you'd consider where we live in Sioux Falls the greatest neighborhood.
Oh, it's not, especially after the other day. That was proven the other day when the police were out looking in our shed looking for a fugitive.
Yeah. So if I were selling something, I wouldn't mind meeting somebody somewhere to arrange the deal. I would, I'm not gonna meet them at their house. So a public area. I honestly don't sell that much stuff. So.
No, we're pack rats.
Yeah, pretty much.
Finally, in Oklahoma, a seasoned citizen defended his wife and himself when 3 criminals invaded their home. As his screaming wife was taken to a back room by a masked intruder holding a gun to his head, or her head, another intruder told Eddie Gilmore to get on the floor. Bad move, bad guy. I got over between the couch and the coffee table, and when I did, I went down, put my arm on the coffee table to kind of hide myself, and I pulled the drawer open because I had a gun in there. Old guy Gilmore came up shooting in every direction he could, those are his words, hitting 2 of the criminals. The suspects fired back, but neither Eddie nor his wife were hurt. They could have killed her and come right in here and killed me if I hadn't had a gun. Suspects were picked up later, and it seems that they were simply bored and randomly looked for a home to rob. It can be a scary thing when criminals are bored. It's a good thing to be able to scare the criminals right back. Deadeye Eddie did notice some important things that didn't happen. I had some reloads in this one gun, and they misfired. Next time, they won't. Rule number 1 of a long life, don't torque off the old guy.
Yeah.
And don't put your reloads in your self-defense firearm.
That's another one. Also, pants on, gun on. I'm glad he had it near, but carry the thing.
Yeah. Carry the thing. And the other thing is, this was totally random.
Yeah.
Once again,
literally, yeah.
I talked to students and concealed carry holders, and they all say, not all, the misguided ones say, I'm only going to carry when it's dangerous. Well, I hope you're not living in some place you think is dangerous. That's some place you should be carrying. It was random. This can happen anywhere, anytime. There is no dangerous location.
Yep. I do want to remind everybody we post each of our news and defensive gun use articles at PoliteSocietyPodcast.com. Please take a moment to share them with a friend. Also, we are segmenting the show up on the website, so if you only want to share the DGUs, or maybe you only want to share the Paul Carlson interview with a friend, you can do that as well. They don't have to listen to the whole show to catch just one segment. We're going to go ahead and step aside to break. When we come back, we've got email to talk about, and we'll get to that right after this. I got to change batteries on my recorder after we finish this show.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. Just the one email.
I wrote the comment here. Anybody want to add to it?
Ba-dum-bum-bum. I'll let you comment, and then we'll just kind of go into a
Jump in
free-for-all.
after it? Okay.
Yeah.
You said you didn't think that was it needs to be fluffed up more? There's not enough there in that comment?
I just wondered, I'm describing my state as I understand it. If you guys have, I'm trying to give our listeners the benefit of your vast experience.
Okay. I'm sure that's a 5 to 10 minute discussion.
I'm thinking 10 to 15, 20.
Yeah.
Knowing you guys.
All right. Who has Gary? You haven't brought us back yet, have you?
Bring me back, Gary.
You mean today?
Yes, today.
All right.
All right. And whenever you're ready, we are rolling.
Welcome back to the Polite Society Podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. This is our email and show close segment. We have an email from Ken in Phoenix. Let's hear it, Susan.
Could you guys talk a bit about the gun show loophole on one of your upcoming shows? From what I've read, there is indeed such a thing, but every 2A and firearms podcast I listen to, everyone is emphatic that there isn't. Somehow, the two sides are reading or interpreting different things. It can't be both at the same time, so would you folks try to clear this up once and for all? Much appreciated. Thanks. Ken in Phoenix.
Rob, why don't you go ahead and take your take on this one first?
Yeah. The gun show loophole, and if that deserves air quotes, it's a pejorative term used by anti-rights advocates. Every state and federal law that applies outside a gun show also applies inside a gun show. Dealers are required to use background checks at a gun show just as they do in their bricks and mortar store. If the state doesn't require a background check for private sales, then two individuals can meet at the gun show and conduct a private party sale. Sometimes they are allowed on premises, sometimes they have to go outside the gun show. You'll often see somebody carrying a rifle over his back. There's a flag sticking out of the barrel. The flag says for sale. You trade business cards, call them later, boom. In California, because those person-to-person transfers like that are required to use an FFL, we handed out flyers that said, don't do underground transfers in the parking lot. You'll get us tossed out of here. Now, some media, and I'll call them propagandists, claim that most vendors at the gun show were operating without federal and state firearms licenses and conducting unregistered sales. That's technically true. But to make it true, you have to count the vendors that are selling drinks, food, t-shirts, toys, jewelry, knives, rifle scopes, gloves, books, cartridge magazines, ammunition, backpacks, gun bags, gun safes. Do you get the point that most of the goings-on at the gun show isn't about guns?
Yeah, can you fill out this $44.96 for this box of MREs you're about to buy, sir?
That's right, exactly.
Oh, you forgot the beef jerky and the alligator jerky.
I did. I
don't know if you get
I must have missed
jerky.
that. We get beef, buffalo, and turkey out here a lot. Some deer.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm with most of the podcasters. There is a federal law that says you cannot knowingly sell a firearm to a known felon. If you know somebody's a felon, it is illegal to sell a firearm to them, with the exception of what is it? It has to be made before 1892. Wasn't that the cutoff? Then it's not technically a firearm. But
okay.
Other than that, if you sell a gun to a known felon, you are committing a federal law violation. It's illegal. There is no gun show loophole, in my opinion. I think you're right, Rob. I think it's somebody. I think it's media members that are on the other side of the fence from us, and they're looking for a way to stir up
Well,
more
they need
restrictions.
they need to say something sensational to keep their listeners from changing the channel.
Well, can I just interrupt here and say the media is not smart enough to actually know what we're talking about with guns. They are parroting what they're being told to say.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'll agree with that 110%.
They don't research this information. They're taking Brady campaign, Moms Demand Action, Bloomberg Group of the
Press
Week.
releases and parroting
Yes,
them.
and they're saying those things. They haven't been to a gun show. They don't know what the loophole really is. They don't even know what they're talking about when they call it a loophole. They're using, once again, they're using a term like assault weapon, assault rifle,
Right.
because it's scary. Loophole sounds, like you said, it's
Dramatic.
Yes, it sounds like someone is getting away with something nefarious. It's
Mhm.
not a generic word.
Right.
It's a back alley, somebody's getting away with something word. So that's the way the press releases are written up. That's the way they're handed off to the mainstream media, and that's what they report because they don't know. They don't go to gun shows. They don't know anything. They're parroting.
Well, let's kick this around just a little bit more, and I'll give out my example. You guys can jump in if you want to. If I had let's just say I had a rifle that I was going to be selling, and I went to the gun show and I did just that. I stuck a for sale sign on the flag hanging out of the barrel, and I'm walking around outside the gun show, and somebody comes up to me and says, that's a really good-looking rifle. I'd really like to have it. We talk about it. We agree to a price. What I would do at that point is one of two things. I would, personally here in South Dakota, I'm going to ask him for his concealed carry permit because at least 10% of the South Dakota population has one. It's quite likely he does. If he doesn't, we will probably still do the sale, but we'll do it a little later. And what will happen is I'm going to get a photocopy of his driver's license. I'm going to get, and I'm going to make him sign something that says, I'm not a felon. I have the ability to buy this because I don't want, the last thing I want, I think the last thing any of us wants is a gun that we have control of getting sold to somebody who goes and does something bad with it. That's something none of us, I'm sure, wants. What do you, Gary?
I would do that.
Let me ask you. Go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
I would do exactly the way you just said to do it. In North Carolina, to sell a pistol, you would have to have a pistol purchase permit from your sheriff or a concealed handgun license. And I advised an elderly man, said, does the guy have one of the other? And he says, no. Yeah, I really wouldn't sell it to him then. I said, thank you for the advice, and he didn't sell it. But I would do it exactly the way you said to do it. Hey, get their carry permit. They've passed a background check.
Mm-hmm.
If not, get a Xerox. Get copies of stuff so something something that would absolve you of liability, and if something needed to be happened in the future, you could track the guy down.
Yeah, and
or gal.
Or gal. Yeah, let's be realistic. But I just don't. The worst thing I've sold very few firearms in my life, but the biggest worry that I would have were I to sell more of them is, will this end up doing something bad? And so I'd want to make sure when I sold it to the right person.
And Gary, I want to argue with you just a little bit. I've got a student who's a journalist. She just took possession of her very own Glock today, and I reached out to a news show that had me on and invited the talent and producer to one of our First Shots programs. So we're trying to make them smarter.
Well, that's not an argument, but that's a great step, 100%. And I hope they show up, and I hope they listen and actually talk to you about it and understand better what they're reporting on it, because they're being fed talking points, and
we need a million more like these, right?
Yeah, not everyone, It's just like we talk about Republicans and Democrats. It's not everyone.
Right.
It's too many. It's absolutely too many.
Amen.
But yeah,
And have any of your students been reporters?
no, I tried. I actually, yeah, I've tried to.
Thank you.
When I've seen reporters writing gun articles, I've reached out to them. Crickets, unfortunately.
Mm.
Well, anything else on this one, or should we move on? I think we've kicked it around. What do you guys think?
Well, Illinois has a 3-day waiting period that applies to everybody. So there is no gun show anything in Illinois. You can buy it from gun dealers. It's still a 3-day waiting period. You do it just like a dealer would. And we have to log into the Illinois State Police website, put in their firearms owner's identification card number, get a verification that it is valid from the Illinois State Police website. There's a number that you have to put on the bill of sale, and you have to wait 3 days. You have to get the money, complete the transaction, and then meet with them 3 days later.
So curious, if I were to want to buy a para from you, I live in South Dakota, would I still have to get a Illinois FOID card, or would you just do the transaction through the? I'm guessing I'd still have to go through a 3-day waiting period before you can even ship the thing, though, huh?
Well, it would be state to state, so we would have to go through an FFL.
But yeah, of course.
And you as far as I know, you can't get a Illinois FOID card as a non-resident. But I would have to keep almost the same details that a dealer would for 10 years on you and keep those records by Illinois law.
So I'm going to be disappearing next month. That'd be real difficult.
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on then. Rob, you got any posts from SlowFax you want to talk about?
I wrote about concealed carry on campus. The anti-rights lobbyists lied about the bills that are in the state legislatures. Propagandists phrase the question like this: should that pimply-faced delinquent who went off to college and got stoned the first time he was away from home be given a gun to play with at school? Well, that isn't what the law says. That isn't what we see concealed carriers do on campus or off. The article is up at clashdaily.com and at my blog, slowfax.wordpress.com. John, give us the update about your blog.
Well, I did a post on Friday discussing the D.C. Attorney General's decision to dismiss their appeal of the Palmer case. And I noted that D.C. is going to dig their heels in on Second Amendment rights, much like the segregationists did back in the 50s and 60s in southern United States. They were going to allow integration with all due deliberate speed, just like D.C. will allow carry with all due deliberate speed. In other words, they're not going to let it happen if they can avoid it. And that post is up at my blog, No Lawyers, Only Guns and Money, which you could find at onlygunsandmoney.blogspot.com.
John, I read your post. I really enjoyed it. That approach has worked in California, where I get our Attorney General will claim that demanding good cause is within the law. And boy, you don't have good cause from where I sit.
Yeah. Yeah. Though I understand she's going to be possibly running for the Senate.
For Senate. Oh, that'll make it better. Growl.
But I did hear that Condoleezza Rice might run for the Senate, and they think that she would beat Kamala Harris. So.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah. Oh, that would be great.
I think Condoleezza Rice is at the Hoover Center for the study of freedom and economics at Stanford University as a fellow right now.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're talking about Barbara Boxer's seat that's coming up that she just decided she's not running again for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, wouldn't that be great to have?
To swap out a Boxer with a Rice. Whew.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's. Oh, you got me in a tizzy over that.
Take care of him, Susan. Keep him calm.
All right. Do want to thank Charlie Foxtrot for writing up show notes for us. You don't hear him on the air, but again, he's a lot of the reason you do keep hearing the show, because time pressures keep putting on us, and we aren't able to get show notes put together in a timely manner before the show, and he spends a lot of time to put the show notes together for us. And Charlie, if you're listening, I want to congratulate you on the purchase of your house, and I do want to also, real quick, I want to. I've been debating this, and I'm going to just touch on it real quick. I want to say congratulations, Wisconsin. You kicked my Facebook feed for the last, I don't know how long, has been filled with Kentucky this, Kentucky that, Kentucky this, Kentucky that, and the Kentucky fans are gloating badly over every victory they get. And last night, as we record this, Kentucky is no longer in the NCAA tournament, and so congratulations to Wisconsin. And my wife is writing furiously, so before I throw to the absolute end of the show, we're going to. Oh yes, one more, and this it didn't get included in the show notes because it happened late. But we had a listener, I think it was Anthony, the same one that emailed in our other news segments. I'm dropping the bomb on you here, guys. Nobody may know anything about it, but it seems Fox News is reporting that Mayor Michael Bloomberg may be running for the mayor of London, England.
I saw that and I was like, how in the heck? I actually said something a little worse than that. How in the heck could he do it? He's not a UK citizen.
He would have.
I mean, he has a house in Bermuda.
He would have to become a UK citizen, and in order to fast track that, he has to invest a certain amount of money in the country, which he already has done, but it could still take up to 2 years. But since his daughters are half British and his ex-wife is British, and he has several friends high in government there, they think they can put it on the fast track.
And anything to get him the heck out of the United States, yes, please go.
Exactly.
And when we were discussing this at breakfast this morning, I told Susan, I said, I'd be glad to get rid of him, but God, the Brits are our friends.
Yeah, right.
Maybe we could talk him into running for the
Kenya?
mayor of, Mogadishu, or Baghdad, or Altakreet.
But if he gives up his U.S. citizenship, there's a significant tax from the IRS.
Yeah.
Could take care of the budget problem.
There you go.
Well, not really, but it would cost him a lot of money.
It would.
Good.
So I think that does wrap it up for this episode of the Polite Society podcast. I do really want to thank Paul Carlson from the Safety Solutions Academy for joining us today. And Rob, you going to be here next Sunday?
I'm going to be in the air.
You're going to be in the air, so you're going to be gone. John, how about you?
I'll be on the road.
Driving. You'll be driving. Okay. Gary, am I going to be doing the show solo?
Yes, sir. That'd be fun.
Okay. I've done it.
I'll be here.
Susan will be here. Okay. I'm liking that. All right.
You better like that.
Looking forward to our chat with Bob Main next week.
Absolutely. Bob Main is going to be on the show next week. Not quite sure of the other guests that are going to be here. We are going to have a midweek show. We've already interviewed Melody Lauer and Kathy Jackson, and those two are going to be on the midweek show, along with, help me out, John.
Sean Bevins.
Sean Bevins. Thank you. He's going to be on the midweek show. We talked with him about the Canada registry that went away, and the one that Quebec tried to start up and failed. So that'll be on the midweek show. It'll just be me with a quick introduction like you normally get for the midweek shows that have been coming out, and a quick goodbye. So until we come back next weekend, everybody.
Stay safe.
Be aware.
And we'll see you down the road.
And I didn't have the outro music queued up, so.
Editing.
That's actually a really easy thing to edit.
Yeah, that's an easy one to edit.
Since the listeners may want it, let's see here if we can get it. There we go. All right. I'm going to go ahead and talk over this. I want to thank our advertisers, Concealment Solutions, Crusader Weaponry, New Jersey Second Amendment Society, the Firearm Safety Institute. Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and kill that music. Thank you for joining us today, everybody. We'll be doing this again 3:30 p.m. Central Time next Sunday, while two of our members are winging their way and driving their way to the NRA show. But at the very least, I'll be here with Susan and possibly Gary, and we'll see you next week. And